Hi, my name is Lori Alexander, and I wanted to talk about marriage, especially marriage to a disobedient husband this morning. I've been writing a lot about marriage lately, and as I have been for many, many years. I have a passion for marriage, and my convictions absolutely grow stronger with each passing year that women should not divorce their husbands over adultery. Yes, it's an exception in God's word, but the exception was given for the hardness of heart. And I want to explain why I think that women should not divorce their husbands over this. If the husband divorces the wife over it and then remarries his adulteress or whore or whatever, then I feel like the wife is free to remarry. She's been released from that covenant. But marriage is a covenant. It's a vow we take on our wedding day. It's a promise, a commitment to stay married through the hard times and the good times, through sickness and health, through riches and poverty, until death do us part. And as believers in Jesus Christ, we should be known as covenant keepers. There's a verse in the Bible said that in the end times, people will not be covenant keepers. I just think of the witness a woman who is fighting for her marriage, even though he's an adulteress, is to the watching world, to her children. What strength it must give to children to watch their mothers stand firm in Jesus Christ and fight for their marriage. There's a woman in the chat room whose husband is having an affair, and she has children. I think she might even be pregnant with a third or something. And she's just grieving. It's just horrible. I'm not trying to diminish when a husband has an affair. I don't know. My husband's been faithful to me for 41 years, and I'm thankful. But I've been through enough people personally that I know whose husbands who have had affairs to speak on this issue. So anyway, she's grieving deeply, and she just wanted support. She wants to stand and fight for her marriage. And another woman shared in the chat room about, I've got hair in my eyes, sorry, it's driving me crazy, that she has 4 children, and I watched her on Facebook all these years. She's a godly woman, and how she stood for her husband and fought for him for 10 long years while he was committing adultery. And she won him back, and she told the woman, I'll link the blog down below of her exact words, that she used to just everything, if he said he might be coming back, she'd be filled with joy. And then if he said something harmful to her, she would just be grief-stricken. But she learned to just take it all to the Lord. Just trust the Lord, just rely on him, have him as her husband. Treat him with kindness when he wasn't. She just won him without a word, with godly behavior. It's God's prescription, and we cannot do any better than that. I'm sure women, most of her friends and family probably encouraged her to divorce him. She had biblical reasons to divorce him. She should divorce him. But she didn't want to. She knew what was at stake. She knew his eternal soul was at stake, possibly, and the lives of her children. She wanted her children to see her standing steadfast in the Lord, trusting in him to win back her disobedient, wayward, adulterous husband. And she did. What a witness to the world she is. What a witness to her children in the church. What a witness to so many people. She's helping women in the chat room. Other women are going through the same thing, and her words just spoke power into them, power of God's word and what he commands that they do. And then there's Connie Hultquist, I've mentioned before. Her husband was in and out of jail for many, many years. I don't even know how many years. She had 6 children. And every night she'd set a place setting for her husband, hoping that he would come home. And who knows what he was doing when he was in and out of jail. Who knows what he was getting into. I'm sure it was wicked. But she just trusted in the Lord. She'd even have rice and beans for dinner. They lived on hardly anything. But she was steadfast in the Lord. She loved the Lord. She trusted him to win her husband back. And she did. He came home. He became a believer in Jesus Christ. And then he died, and he'll spend eternity in heaven because her steadfastness in Jesus Christ. I had a Bible study leader. Her husband committed adultery. He was having an affair. And she decided, I don't know if she was being counseled by anyone, she was a godly woman, that she was going to try to win him back. She even washed his car one day and then waved goodbye to him as he drove off to his whore or whatever. And she won him back. It took him an entire year after coming home to her to apologize, to ask for forgiveness. Those two became mentors at a church nearby us to couples who were getting married. He had a strong ministry. He loved the Lord deeply. You ask her if it was worth it, fighting for her marriage and going through all that suffering and that tribulation, and she would absolutely say yes. What a witness to a watching world of God's redeeming, transforming power. Then there's another woman I know. Her husband was having an affair, and so she moved with her parents, and she called me and wanted to know. Her parents wanted her to work and get a job. She wanted to stay home and be with her children and raise them and homeschool them. They wanted her to get a job and provide for herself. And I said, well, where's your husband? She said, he's at home. And I said, well, move back home. So she moved back home, fought for her marriage, lived out a godly life in front of him. He repented, and they have a wonderful marriage now. I'll never forget her telling that. I don't know how long after he had stopped the affair and whatever, they were just hugging in bed together, and she could feel his hot tears coming down her face as he was apologizing to her for the pain that he put her through. Men caught in affairs are miserable. I read these men's blogs, and they say that affairs, flings, one-night stands aren't fun in the end. They might be a moment of pleasure, but they produce so much pain and guilt and suffering. God says that fornication, we're sinning against our own body. He says for us to flee fornication. If any of you are considering fornicating and being adulterous, stop. It will never be worth it. Think about the pain that you will cause to so many, to your children, to your spouse, to your parents, to the watching world. That the witness that you have to Jesus Christ is dashed upon the rocks when you commit adultery. So women who are going through this, who have adulterous husbands, stand strong, stand fast in Jesus Christ, be involved in a solid Bible-believing church, be in God's word daily, seeking Him, pursue biblical womanhood and how God calls you to be, because you're only responsible for you and your behavior. You're not responsible for your husbands. But you want him to be saved. You want his soul to spend eternity with Jesus Christ. You know that he's suffering, that he's in bondage to his sin, to his flesh, and that reaps nothing beautiful. It reaps only destruction and ugliness. So you stand strong in the Lord. And the children are blessed whose mothers stand strong and win back their daddies to the home. Because all children want their mommies and daddies under their roof with them. And this one woman I was telling you about at the beginning, I've seen pictures of this family, and it's beautiful seeing him in the picture finally. It's a complete family. Think what those children of hers think. Just so thankful their mom stood strong and won back their daddy. So then now they can bring their children to their home, to their parents' home. And there's not a brokenness in that family. It's worth fighting for your marriage, women. So fight for your marriage. God will be with you. He'll never leave nor forsake you. The joy of the Lord will be your strength. And you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Bye-bye.